Okay, the last we heard from Bundy was that he moved from Washington to Utah to attend law school, and this was at the end of 1974. His latest victim that we talked about in the last episode was Debbie Kent, and that was after the attempted murder. You can say it's kidnapping. I mean, that's what he ended up getting charged with, but made no mistake about it, he was going to murder Carol DeRanch. And that was November 8th, 74. So remember now, we have this big gap from there until 75 when he's arrested. Within that time frame, there are obviously murders. He didn't stop. Remember, Lake Sammamish, 2 at a time. He was averaging 1 a month, and that gap has been closing a little bit. So, but in 75, when he moves to Utah, his MO doesn't really change, but he does change some things up that I find interesting. And that basically is, remember, he had a second dumping ground. Well, now he's in a different place, and his bodies are getting spread out. By that I mean he's not using a designated dumping ground. After he kills somebody, he's not taking them to Taylor Mountain or a place like that where the bodies are just building up. He confesses later that he murdered a girl and threw her into the river. He buried another one. He left one laying along a road on this a snowbank naked. So I mean, I wonder whether he's getting more satisfaction from just the rape and the murder than he is now revisiting. Okay? Just think, a year ago, you know, it was all about the revisit. It was all about going back to the crime scene. It was all about necrophilia. Of course, stuff he really did not want to admit to, but it's certainly things that he did. Now, it seems like he's just killing them and leaving them lay. He's not revisiting them. Now, why? Why the change in that? I mean, we can certainly surmise and guess all we want, but only really Ted knows. Maybe it was because the urge to kill, the sexual gratification he gets from killing and raping is enough. Okay, that he doesn't have to go back and revisit. All he has to do now is find another victim. So, I'm looking at the FBI documents here. So in 75, after he moves to Utah, he has at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 murders from January 12th until he was arrested on August 16th. And you could have added at least 1 or 2 more victims in there had this Robert Haywood, this trooper, not made the stop that he made. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But I'm just going to read off some of these names here and look at and listen to the difference. Okay, on January 12th, Karen Campbell. She disappeared from a hotel hallway in Colorado. Her body was discovered 36 days later on a dirt road near the hotel. Okay, what's significant about that? Dirt road. Not up in the mountains. Dirt road. Now, 36 days, I'm not sure how secluded this dirt road was, but obviously Bundy made no effort to really disguise or, hide the body. March 15th, Julie Cunningham, 26, disappeared on her way to a tavern in Vail, Colorado. Body buried, according to Bundy. She's never been found. Okay, what do I take from that? Well, I take that there's a victim in there somewhere, okay, that we don't know about. January to March. Remember, his average is 1 a month. There's one in there we don't know about. April 6th, Denise Oliverson. She's 25, abducted while cycling to her parents' house. According to Bundy, he threw her into the Colorado River. Well, now that's way out of the norm, right? Of all the victims and stuff that we've had, he's never disposed of any that we know about into a river. So, big deviation, but the April 6th date, it's about a month. Okay? So, that to me is, I'm okay with that. Now, this one, May 6, 1975, Lynette Culver, age 12. Big deviation. She's abducted from her junior high school in Idaho. Body thrown, according to Bundy, into what authorities believe to be the Snake River. She was never found. So he confessed to that. Now, I find this very intriguing because later on, when we get to Kimberly Leach, he had a hard time talking about that, and I assumed it was because of the age. I didn't know about this younger 12-year-old victim. I only thought that the youngest one was Kimberly Leach. So, this is a big deviation, okay? And I want to do some more follow-up on this murder. I find it hard that he confessed to this, that she was only age 12. Because his next victim, she's age 15. So, we had gone from early 20s to those victims in Washington, remember, until late teens and early 20s here, and now we're going down into almost preteen, 12. So sitting here trying to think what his motivation would be for that, and what I can come up with is opportunity. When this urge comes and overtakes him that he must kill and he has to quench this thirst of his, I think in the beginning he was more selective. Now I think he's at the point where, hey, if the opportunity strikes and I can get away with it without hassle, I'm going to take it. And maybe that's why this 12-year-old. But the date of this 12-year-old is significant to me. And when I was researching these, you try to look for like common denominators. When you're a good investigator and you're always questioning why, without going down rabbit holes, okay? You try to look for commonality, you try to look for reasonings. And when I saw May 6th, I'm like, well, that looks familiar. When I went back 1 year, I saw that 1 year ago on May 6th, he abducted and killed Roberta Parks. Did that play a role in Bundy's head? I doubt it. Bundy doesn't seem like that type of serial killer to me. It's more, hey, when the urge strikes, he's not sitting at home, I don't believe, with a calendar and all of his victims, and he says, oh, May 6th, 1974, I abducted and killed Roberta Parks. Well, tonight I'm going to go out because it's May 6th, 1975, 1 year anniversary. I'm going out to kill again. I don't think so with him. And I'll give you an example. When I investigated the Don Miller homicide, when I worked for Williamsport Police Department, the 1 year anniversary was significant to me because the suspect attempted suicide on that 1 year anniversary. So again, as an investigator, you're looking for commonalities. Okay, when I get a report that he tried killing himself, I'm looking at, okay, well, why? What's significant? The location? Is something happening there? Ooh, the date. Oh, that date's familiar. It's 1 year since she disappeared. Now he becomes more of a suspect. So things like that. But with Bundy, I don't think so. I think it was just a coincidence. So then on June 28th, Susan Curtis, 15, disappeared during a youth conference at Brigham Young University, body buried. According to Bundy, near Price, Utah, body was never found. So again, from May 6th to June 8th, it's another month. So look at those dates, okay? January 12th. Well, we won't even go with the day, just the month. Ready? January, March, April, May, June. What month is missing? February. Absolutely. There's a body in there somewhere. And I'm sure, listen, I am not the best detective in the world. Okay? I'm not even close. I could think of hundreds probably that I don't even know about that are better than me that looked at this case and they saw that too. Okay? So I'm not saying anything new, I am sure. I think of what was that, Gil? I had him written down because I had worked on him before. Frank Salerno and Gil Capelio. They investigated the Night Stalkers. 1,000 times better cop than me. You know, after I see what they did. Those guys that worked the Jeffrey McDonald case with all those fibers. Bob Keppel, Joe Kennedy, Cloyd Stoiger, Dave Toshi. All better cold case investigators than me. Okay? But this is just what I see. So in August of 1975, he's arrested. Now, how is he arrested? Okay, so Bundy's driving around on August 16, 1975 at 3 a.m. in the morning. He is seen by a trooper, Robert Haywood, who knows that area, okay? He's responding to another call to help another officer, but he gets lost. He took a wrong turn. So he didn't technically get lost, just took a wrong turn. He ended up in front of these people's house who he knows are out of town, but their 2 teenage daughters are there. Remember when I said Bundy almost had 2 more victims? Well, guess whose car is sitting in front of their house at 3 in the morning? That's right, the Volkswagen Bug of Ted Bundy. Trooper is in an unmarked car. I did not know that. He pulls up behind him and Bundy takes off. Now, there's a great video that I watched on YouTube about this, where the trooper actually drives that route and shows what happened. And he says Bundy had it floored as fast as it could go, trying to get away from him. He has the car illuminated with the spotlight the whole time, till eventually, you know, I don't know, maybe the chase was 3 minutes. He pulls over into a gas station, gets out immediately, starts walking back towards him. He draws his revolver and says, "Stop, put your driver's license, registration," you know, all the standard police stuff. He says, "Hey, what were you doing there?" "Well, I was watching a movie." "Well, what movie?" "The Towering Inferno." Well, this trooper knew that there was 3 westerns playing that night at the movie theaters and not Towering Inferno. So he knew he was lying. He asked if he could search his car. Bundy said, "Yep." He looked in it. First thing he noticed was the front seat was removed. The front passenger seat. There was a bag laying right next to the driver's seat, right near Bundy's right hand, and it had a nice pick, brand new set of handcuffs, ski mask, and pantyhose. And what really struck out to him was Bundy was dressed all in black from head to toe. So I've used the term trolling before in serial killers. It's basically they're out looking for a victim. There's no doubt in my mind, or anybody's mind, I'm sure. Well, there might be some, because there's some people out there that believe Bundy's innocent. Can you believe that? Even though he confessed. But we won't talk about those people. Bundy was going to kill somebody that night. Probably was going to be those 2 teenage girls. He had probably stalked them or whatever, or maybe he didn't. But I find it odd that he ended up right in front of their house. But he could have been anybody. To him, okay, this road is quiet. There's not a lot of traffic. I'm going to park here and I'm going to walk and I'm going to get into one of these houses. The only thing that I have a problem with that about is that's not how Bundy has been taking his victims, right? He's been taking them from the street. Bundy hasn't broken into homes and abducted and killed women for a year now that we know about. It's all been abducted from the street, remember? So why is he changing it back up? Maybe Bundy was such a thief. Is it possible that he was just going to steal? You know, he's broken into houses before to steal. So maybe that's all he was planning on doing. But you have June 28th as his last confirmed kill. And now we have an August 16th. Remember, every month. So we're missing July. There's a body in there too. Okay? And now we're in August. I don't think he was just stealing. He was ready to make a move on a victim. And he's not abducting him from the street at 3 in the morning. He was going to enter a house. So, again, it goes with the MO. He's changing everything up. His dump locations, all that. And I don't know if it's purposeful. I think it's just him doing what he needs to do to quench that thirst, that need to kill. So, Haywood arrests him. Now, what does he arrest him for? They don't know he's Ted Bundy, the murderer from Washington and all that. Nobody really knows that. Everything's starting to come together, but he arrests him for evading. Burglary and a robbery, homicide, they're called. They look at the stuff and they say, well, we're going to arrest him for and charge him for instruments of burglary. They do that. He is booked, but then he's released. They got no reason to keep him. Okay? They eventually put 2 and 2 together. Colorado calls and says, hey, we're interested in him. Washington's saying, hey, we're interested in him. We think we know. We're putting this together. We think he's involved in these murders. But there's nothing they can do for they've already released him. In the meantime, Bundy sells his car. Police are able to track it down. I believe this was in September of 1975. So just a month. Things are rolling fast here, okay? He's booked, released in August of 75. September 75, they find his VW Bug that he sold. They find hair evidence in there that matches Carol Durant's, among other suspect or victims. So they do a photo lineup. Carol Durant picks him out. Not to mention that the handcuff that he was found in possession that night was the same as the handcuffs on Carol Durant. Don't know if that's too big of a deal. I would think more about the key that was dropped in the parking lot matching the ones that she wore when she escaped. That is significant, but it doesn't link it to Bundy, I guess. So I get what they're saying there about the same brand of handcuffs. And to me, what's more importantly is they're brand new, according to Haywood, because he lost the other set. His excuse was, I use them for, I'm a law student. I use them in class. So after Carol Durant picks him out of a lineup, he goes to trial and he's convicted of attempted kidnapping. Well, make no mistake, they all knew at that time he was the Ted that they were looking for. Okay, they just didn't have the proof yet. So what do? You charge him with this, so that way he's off the damn street and not killing anybody. Well, Bundy has other plans. So, because he escapes jail twice. Now, what's significant about this is that he doesn't go to jail until February of 1976. He's in jail for what? Maybe a year in there. But in June of 77, okay, they know they got the guy. He knows they got him now. How can all these women be disappearing in all these places that he's at? They find his gas receipts. In those gas receipts, oh, he's been to Colorado. Oh, 2 miles away from where this victim was. 2 miles away from this victim. He was in the same vicinity as this victim. They're tying it all together. Bundy knows this. So, in June of 1977, he is at I believe a preliminary hearing or some sort of, might not be at a preliminary hearing, but it was some sort of hearing in the courthouse, and he jumps out a second floor window and makes his escape. Obviously, things were much more relaxed, and that goes back to Bundy's being able to make people more relaxed and comfortable around him, not being a threat. Nice guy. Yeah, I could go ahead and use the law library there. You know, I'll be right out here in the hallway. Can you take these cuffs off? Yeah, sure. No big deal. You ain't going anywhere. Turn around, 2 minutes later, windows open, he's gone. Now, that is significant, but what I find even more fascinating is how he prepared for that escape. He would go back to his cell and he would practice jumping from the top bunk to condition his ankles and legs for that impact. He would run in his cell to condition himself for when he did make that jump, his run. He did all these things, prepared. That mentality, okay, let's say Bundy was a suspect in these murders, which he was, but they didn't know for sure. Let's just hypothesize that for a minute. And then he makes this escape, and it comes out, Bundy says, yeah, I planned it for 2 months. I jumped off the top rack. I did all these things. At that point, you as an investigator would have to be like, okay, now we're looking at something different here. This guy's different. So when you look at each of these murders, these MOs, these missing persons, you have to apply that knowledge that he pre-planned that escape and took these precautions in order to get away with it. He would do the exact same thing for these murders, right? Remember that, because then he becomes sloppy and he doesn't plan and he doesn't prepare, and it come back to ultimately not haunt him, but aid, I would say, in his arrest. Unfortunately, it comes at the behest of a few more victims. So he escapes, he jumps out of the courthouse, he runs. He's captured a week later. While he's on the run, he breaks into a cabin, he hides in the woods. He does all these things. He's in the mountains, but he's hungry, it's cold. He comes back into the town, steals a car, and then gets pulled over in the stolen car. And he basically says he gave up, which I don't believe. He just was stupid and he got caught. So that's in June of 77. In December of 77, he escapes again. This time he escapes with the help of some hacksaw blades, and he gets a vent in his cell that goes up into the jailer's closet, and he makes his escape. This one is a lot more successful because from there he goes to Michigan. He's in a bar, gets drunk, almost beat up. He eventually makes his way. I think he took I stole a car, went so far that he could in a car. Then he took a bus and then ended up taking a flight to where he eventually would be caught, and that is Florida. And this happens quick, okay? In January of, what, 78, I want to say, is when he makes his escape to Florida. Doesn't take him long down there. He gets a room, and he starts right away, because January 15th he begins the last chapter in his killing spree. So Bundy lives close to a sorority house, the Chi Omega sorority, which is also within the distance of a bar which he frequents. He has not shied away from alcohol. Again, it lowers his inhibitions. It allows him to do things with more comfort. He breaks into the Chi Omega house. Okay, it's a big house, big sorority. A lot of girls in there. Very brazen. I want to say there was like 40 girls that lived there. He could have been seen by anybody. But he didn't care. He breaks in, which again goes against the norm. Remember, he's pulling girls off the street with his ruse, with his crutches. Okay? Why does he go back to that? I don't know the answer to that. Again, it could be opportunity. But you're in Florida. I mean, I would guess that opportunity to pull somebody off the street, maybe it's because he didn't have the right vehicle. Could that be it? He certainly didn't have a vehicle of his own. He didn't have any money. He relied on stealing girls' purses from the bars and things like that, stolen credit cards. So he didn't have a vehicle. It could be as simple as that, now that I think about it. He could have stolen a vehicle, but that had just gotten him in trouble before. So maybe he says, you know what? I'll go back to what I did in the beginning. And I'm not going to take him from the house. I'll just sneak in, rape him, and kill him there. Again, he's dumping bodies, right? He's not spending as much time with them as he had in the past. So maybe the urge to rape and kill, maybe it dissipates. But maybe not. Because what he does this night is shocking to me. He breaks into the sorority house. He kills Margaret Bowman, Lisa Levy. He injures Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner. The weapon that he uses is, I say, see, and this is tough, a weapon of opportunity, right? He uses a piece of wood that he finds on the outside before he goes into the house. It's like a wooden log, a big heavy branch, and he strikes them with it. Now I think back to Darlie Routier case. Now it's certainly different. She's not a serial killer. But people want to say a serial killer because Tommy Lee Sells, he admitted doing it. People don't always bring a weapon. That's true, and I've never said it's always. But in most instances, if you're planning to kill somebody, if you're planning it, you will bring a weapon. You're not going to rely on, well, I just hope that they have a weapon there that I can access and gain hold of. In this case, think about what Bundy does. As far as we know, he didn't bring a weapon. Now, sure, he could strangle. I mean, that's been done millions of times. He could strangle, but that's not his MO. He likes to bludgeon. Now, does he bludgeon just to knock them out, become unconscious, and then strangle? He has done that. Maybe in his mind, that was his plan. I believe he was intoxicated this night. But maybe that was his plan, just to go in there, rape them in their beds, and strangle them. That's it. On the way in, he's seen a weapon of opportunity. He says, you know what? I'm going to take this, just in case. Or, that's perfect. I don't know. That's another question that I would have asked Bundy. Hey, why did you choose to pick that up? You know, those are the small things that I want to know. It's the details. But he goes in there, murders 2, injures 2. He's frightened because somebody else pulls into the driveway. At least that's the information I got from Kathy Kleiner when I had lunch with her. She said that her roommate was pulled in and she believed that saved her life when Bundy saw the headlight. He's on his way out. Another sorority sister saw Bundy leaving. She got the outline of him. She testified in the trial about it. Bundy leaves. But he doesn't go home. What does he do? He goes, 8 blocks up from where he just committed double murder and 2 attempted murders, so a total of 4. And he attempted to murder another person. And that person was Cheryl Thomas. She survived. But make no mistake, Bundy tried to kill her. He bludgeoned her as well. What I find so significant about that is that it's no longer sexual gratification. Remember before, it was so intertwined. He just raped 2 of these girls. At least 1, possibly 2. He's murdered 2, tried to kill 2 others. Leaves, and not within an hour later, he's killing again. Because that urge is still there. It didn't dissipate at all. That is a monster, folks. That is a monster. She survives. That's all on January 15th. Let's skip ahead. How long are we going to skip ahead? That's right, 1 month. February 9th, Kimberly Leach, age 12. She's seen getting into a van from her junior high school. Her body's found in a broken down hog pen. And she was also raped, sodomized, and all the horrible things that Ted Bundy did. 12 years old. Bundy wouldn't talk about that case. And I could never figure out why, and I still don't know why. I thought it was because of the age. Yet, as we talked about before, he confessed to Lynette Culver, who, according to the documents I have here from the FBI, she was 12 years old. Now I just want to verify that. Well, according to this FBI document, Lynette Culver, that was based on Bundy's description of the victim. I am going to research that further just for my own knowledge. I'd like to know why, because I always figured he didn't talk about Kim Leach because she was 12. But he talked about this girl and she was 12. So again, it goes back to, why does Bundy want to talk about some victims and not others? Why didn't he talk about Susan Rancourt? And he won't talk about Kimberly Leach, but he'll talk about Karen Campbell and Linda Healy and others. Was it something that they did? Was It could be a million things, and you could speculate all you want, but I don't know. But Bundy is caught again from this escape. He's arrested, and this time, thank goodness, they kept him in jail until he died, wherein he was electrocuted by the government in the state of Florida, death penalty. So Bundy's reign of terror comes to an end. From 1974 to 1978, 4 years of terror. He believes that there was, well, it depends on who you believe. I mean, he told his attorney that add another digit and this and that. And his attorney said that he actually Bundy killed a guy too. I've not seen that anywhere, but according to the attorney, Bundy told him this. I'm going to do maybe 1 or 2 more videos on Bundy. Those being, I'm going to research some of the potential victims. I'm going to talk about his possible first victim, which was a female, young, I believe 8-year-old girl from his hometown when he would have been a teenager. I'm going to look into that, although Bundy said no. Her parents even wrote Bundy and asked him, and he responded no. But again, sometimes Bundy won't confess to ones for whatever reason. He doesn't want to talk about them. Could this have been one of them? I'm going to look into that. I'll give you my opinion on that and some of the other victims, because there's time gaps, no doubt. And let me tell you, unless he was locked up, he was still killing. So, some people believe he killed hundreds. Some say 30. Bundy says 30. But then Bundy also said 100. So, we're going to talk about those other victims. Ted Bundy, again, I've called him the perfect killing machine. There were other serial killers that I believe were more cautious than Bundy. Bundy, street smarts, and his IQ were average, in my opinion. But what Bundy was good at was sticking to what works. I equate that to a football player. You know, let's say a wide receiver and a quarterback. Hey, this route works every single time they're in zone coverage. Or this works every time they're in man-to-man. And you hit it. Well, you're going to keep coming back to that in crucial moments because it works. Bundy was the same way. This ruse with these crutches worked. I'm not going to deviate from it until, hey, be on the lookout for this guy who uses this ruse. He calls himself Ted. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to say I'm a cop. I'm going to show a badge. Or, hey, that girl escaped my clutches. She's going to be able to tell my ruse. I'm going to go back to breaking into homes and raping and killing them there. And it's what he did at the end of his life. Some will say he got sloppy. I say he was going back to what he was comfortable with and what he knew. So, I believe that's going to be it for Ted Bundy. Again, I think I might do, and I'm going to say I think, I'm not sure yet. So this could conclude everything on Bundy that I wanted to cover. And remember, it's not about the details of each murder. Okay, that's not what the series on Bundy was about. It was about the evolution of a serial killer, just what the name implies. It's how he got to where he did, showing you how he trolled, he stalked victims, how he used what worked for him, how he evolved to certain things, the necrophilia, the body dumps, and then not caring about the body dumps and going back to just dumping them where they laid, the necrophilia not really paying too much of a part to it, although he couldn't totally get away from that, because on one of these murders, and I can't remember which one it was, in the last year, he actually went back and revisited the remains again. And it was in the Utah, Colorado, Idaho murder. And he drove a significant amount of distance to revisit the remains. That was one of the things that Bundy made abundantly clear when he talked to Bob Keppel about Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, and when he was helping them find out who this person was. He was adamant that, and remember, he's drawing on his own experience as a serial killer. And he said, whoever this Riverman is, he's going to revisit the crime scene. Now, that was one of the first times that, and it's become lore now. Now everybody thinks the killers will revisit the crime scene. That's not true, okay? You have many different types of killers. You have anger retaliatory killers. You have fantasy killers. You have people that kill for greed. You have all these different types. And yes, a certain type, fantasy-driven serial killer, will revisit crime scenes. That's true. But it's not in every case. So you can't say, well, I know that killers like to revisit their crime scene, so why don't you put up a trail camera at the location? That doesn't always... It's more complicated than that. But he was adamant about that with Gary Ridgway, and he was drawing, Bundy was, on his own experiences, because that's what he did. And again, this book that I had shown you guys before, The Only Living Witness, it's a very, very good book if you want to know what Bundy did, like during his escape, hiding in the woods, how he murdered Linda Healy. Is it Healy or Heatley? I don't want to mispronounce her name wrong. I believe it's Healy, Linda Healy. You know, for me, and there's other people just like me that want to know. I can't stand unsolved mysteries. It's one of the reasons I got into the profession that I did, and to become a detective, and to run a cold case unit, and all these things, because I want to know why. I don't like it being left unknown. And when I was researching this case, and I come up with Linda Healy, and why was her nightgown hung back up in the closet and her bed made and stuff? What happened? She just disappeared. Read Only Living Witness, and Bundy will tell you. Oh, some of it may be bullshit, but most of it I believe is truth. And he tells it through a third person, but you get the gist of it, and it will satisfy your curiosity for the time being. I'll say that. So, alright, well, that's it. It looks like for Ted Bundy. Might be one or two more on this. Maybe one more. And then we'll be on to something new. And I appreciate all your support as usual, and for sticking around and watching this long series. Bundy's a long topic to cover. I didn't really expect for it to go on this long, but you can learn a lot from Bundy, and that's what I want to emphasize, is it's a learning experience. The more we can learn from people like Ted Bundy, the better we are as investigators when other type of murders happen. So I'm all about learning. You know, if you're not learning, if you're not growing, you're dying. Okay? So that's why this series was important to me. Yes, I know everything in the world has been done on Ted Bundy, but there's a reason for it, because you can learn from him. It's not sensationalism. It's not for clicks or views or whatever the hell most YouTube want, you know, subscribe bullshit and notifications, all that horse shit. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care if, what do we got? I don't even know. I don't even know how many subscribers that I got on here. I used to track it a little bit, but I don't care anymore. I just care about delivering the content so we can learn from it. Take 80% from what I say in these videos as horseshit. But there's 20% that you'll be like, oh yeah, okay. No, I don't believe in those ratios. I think it's flipped. I think 20% take as bullshit, 80% as gospel. But you do it any way you want, as long as you take something from these videos that make you a better investigator, and it allows you to look through an investigator's eyes. So when you are looking at a case and you say, why didn't the police do that? Oh, that's right, Maine said this. Okay? So that's what my hope is, so it helps out. So, hey, until next time, this is it. Maine's out.